So last week, a member of the Independent Alliance MPs, Adnan Hussain, quit your party. Hussain was one of the MPs stewarding the party to conference. But for a lot of us, we were, and to be honest, we still are confused which roles particular people play. Now, this is what Adnan said. After much thought, I've made the difficult decision to step out of the steering process for your party. I wish those who continue to work on this endeavour the very best of luck and hope their hard work achieves the results they desire. He then attached a statement. I'm not going to go through all of it, I'm just going to go through the relevant parts. Over the last few months, I've been in the process of reflecting on my involvement in the steering process of your party and on the direction in which the project has developed. When I agreed to take part, I did so because I believed in the vision of a genuinely broad church, a pluralistic, inclusive political space capable of representing the people who have long been left behind by the mainstream parties. I believed in a movement that welcomed diversity of background and thought, including working class communities like my own constituency, people of faith, and those who may be socially conservative, yet economically left-leaning, while holding firm to a commitment to equality, justice, and anti-racism. Regrettably, the reality I encountered has been far from this vision. The culture surrounding the party has become dominated by persistent infighting, factional competition, and a struggle for power, position and influence rather than a shared commitment to the common good. Instead of openness, cooperation, and outward focus, the environment has too often felt toxic, exclusionary, and deeply disheartening. I've also been deeply troubled by the way certain figures within the steering process, particularly Muslim men, have been spoken about and treated. At times, the rhetoric used has been disturbingly similar to the very political forces the left claims to oppose. I witnessed insinuations about capability, dismissive attitudes, and language that carried, at the very least, veiled prejudice. This was especially painful given that these individuals, amongst them myself, achieved something remarkable, winning seats against all odds in long-established Labour strongholds through sheer grassroots hard work, community credibility, and determination, without party machinery or institutional support. Alongside this, I did not anticipate becoming drawn into very serious and damaging internal disputes on matters relating to organisational conduct and governance. I must be able to serve my constituents with absolute clarity and integrity. After long consideration, I've concluded that I can no longer remain part of this steering process, nor continue surrounded by an environment that undermines the very values it claims to champion. So there's a lot to unpack there, and look, I have a lot of thoughts. First of all, I think Adnan and the other independent MPs may have not been aware of the role or responsibility they were going to play, because look, it was cobbled together. So I can see the frustration where, Adnan thought it wasn't probably going to be very stressful. It was just a steering process. But due to the drama, the very public fights, the fight over power and even money, which is really bad stuff, he probably thought, you know what? It's not worth it. And I don't blame him for that. But the other stuff he mentions, I have a problem with, specifically social conservatism. Now, we don't know what the party is. We don't know what it's going to be. There are no policies. There is no platform. There isn't even a democratic process. So I find it odd to quit the party on the basis of political views when these debates haven't even happened. Now, your party hasn't decided if it wants to be just a class-based party where social conservatism is accepted, or if it's to be a left-wing, socially and economically progressive party. Look, that's for them to decide through democratic procedure. Now, in my opinion, I think anyone should be able to be a member, regardless of views. That's then, debated, decided by democratic means, and then the party will have a policy. If it turns into a class-only party where social conservatism is accepted, let's be honest, we're talking about trans people here, aren't we? Then maybe that has wider appeal, I don't know, but it would make my vote a hell of a lot easier because I would just vote for the Greens because I'm socially progressive. But maybe that will be a viable sort of alternative vehicle, something different to the Green Party. There may be places where I think your party can win in places maybe the Greens can't get. And if they do sort of embrace a more, socially conservative social policy or gender critical line, but economically left wing, again, maybe it has wider appeal, I don't know. But Adnan quit before that, and the reason is because he's been attacked and criticised for his views. But what does he expect? I mean, a left-wing movement where most of us are socially progressive, with an MP, he's not just some random member. He's close to Jeremy Corbyn. He has a position of power. I mean, we covered the Your Party electoral registration. According to the electoral registration, Jeremy Corbyn is officially leader. Adnan was nominating officer. Now, of course, that's temporary, right? But given that we don't really know what's going on, I think it's reasonable to be concerned that an MP close to Corbyn has a position of authority, that his views, which are in opposition to what most people involved in the party don't want, of course he's going to be criticised. But it's not just that, right? Adnan has continued to double down. He's continued the public fights online. I think he's brought a lot of it on himself. No, he could stop doing that and simply reiterated that, look, these are my personal views, but the membership decides. And I'm sure he said that once, but why couldn't he just stick to that and keep quiet? Why did he have to double down and continue these sort of public fights and be embroiled in public spats? Now, Nicola James tweeted this, which Adnan reposted. What's happening here isn't about principles, it's about who is allowed to speak. If an independent alliance Muslim MPs comment on certain topics, some instantly frame it as social conservatism, anti-trans, not socialist. But when Mark Sawotka and Sama Yayoub make similar points, it barely registers, and Zara Sultana publicly embraces them. Some might say these double standards are pure factionalism. So that's only part of a tweet, but Nicola James is saying that, you know, Mark Sawotka has openly gender critical views. I mean, apparently his wife heads up a really transphobic organization, and she's pointing out the hypocrisy there. And look, I think that is a fair interjection. Again, she says it looks pretty hypocritical, but I actually disagree with her. And the reason why is, first of all, Mark has been criticized for his views. He has been. But crucially, he's not an MP who's stewarding the party. He doesn't have the level of, let's be honest, let's call it what it is, power, right? He's just a member making speeches, which I think, look, it's fine, have that debate. But Adnan is close to Jeremy Corbyn. He's an MP. He's part of the founding process. I think the power dynamic is a lot different. But I actually think it goes further than just being sort of economically left and socially right. I actually question if Adnan is even left-wing on the economy. First of all, he is a landlord. And to me, the fundamental basis of an anti-establishment left-wing party that calls itself socialist should ban landlords completely. Now, the Green Party, I would say it's still a social democratic party who have a very, very good housing policy. They recently voted to abolish landlords through regulation. But we've been told by activists, by Jeremy Corbyn himself and many other people, that this is a socialist party, not a social democratic one. And to me, the fundamental value, it should be in its written sort of constitution, is that you should not allow landlordism because it's by nature an exploitative practice. Now, does that mean landlords can't be in the party? I mean, look, if you're a landlord and you want to vote to abolish your own personal affairs, then fine. But this isn't about a broad church and then you have some redistributive policies in there. Again, we've got the Greens for that. I've seen statements by people online saying, don't join the Greens, they're not a real socialist party. This party's going to be socialist. So to me, a lot of activists seem to think that your party and the Greens are different because your party is quintessentially socialist. And I think that's absolutely fine. It's something that really contrasts with the Green Party, and they can start making actual socialist arguments. They can, in their, manifesto say that parts of the economy need to be in the hands of workers, means of production owned by workers themselves. Why not? And look, Adnan Hussain himself has said, look, it should be a broad church. And I can't remember when he specifically tweeted this, so I don't have a screenshot. But he said he didn't want the party to be purely economically left-wing. He was talking about a sort of a broad church on the economy too. He was talking about let's not hit aspiration. And more specifically in his own personal circumstances, of course, socialism is not anti-business. But things such as, again, landlordism should be absolutely no way accepted in a socialist party because, again, it's exploitative. I question whether Adnan he's really left-wing and he's really good on Gaza. He's just a bit socially conservative and your party's been purist. I don't even see it like that. Now, since Adnan quit, I've seen some really questionable stuff. He mentioned that the party was toxic for Muslim men. Not Muslims, but Muslim men. And this has been compounded with these posts. Five Pillars journalist Robert Carter says, the Sultanaist faction needs to get 1 point through their thick, woke heads. The Your Party needs Muslim support or it will tank. The Muslim vote managed to secure 4 independent MPs, a seat in Labour strongholds. almost secured at least another 4. The woke left won a big fat 0 MPs. Keep up this BS and you can forget winning a damn thing. Muslims can just stick with the plan of backing independence. Now, obviously, whatever his definition of woke left is, I mean, the Greens won 4 seats, economically and socially progressive. So the idea that it can't win, I mean, that's clearly not true. He also tweeted this. Here is some free advice to your party. Zara Sultana needs to go. If not, then you can kiss goodbye to any hope of securing any Muslim vote support. Without Britain's Muslims, the party, whatever you end up calling it, will lose big time. Lawyer and politician Ahmed Yaqub put up this video.
The Your Party controversy. Many of you will have seen this new Your Party that's been formed by Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana. And many of you would have hoped that this would be a marketplace of views. But unfortunately, we, after attending 2-3 events of Your Party, have realized that this is a toxic environment where conservative views are not welcome. For that reason, we are not joining the Your Party. And I would urge every single one of you to remember, Zara Sultana, who can take Jeremy Corbyn and hold Jeremy Corbyn's money that does not belong to her, is a telling sign of who she is and what the party is.
I feel that the money should be retained as a matter of urgency, and the people who have come and hijacked the Your Party are lifelong ex-Labour members, and they should be ashamed of themselves as well, because this politics is simply picture politics. We will remain independent and we will remain loyal to our voters and our supporters for life. Remember that.
Okay, so there's a lot to go through there. First, when it comes to the money, that's an entirely separate issue. There's, fights going about, the donation that's come in. One side saying they're trying to give the money to the other side saying they haven't got the money. Maybe we'll do a separate video on that. But to address the issue at hand, he's saying, well, conservative views are not tolerated. Yes, because conservative views are not a protected characteristic. Okay? If you're going to be criticised for your political views, suck it up. And the idea that, it should be a marketplace of ideas, of course, right? A democratic party is going to have debate. But the entire point of starting a political party, it has to have its values, and you have to set the boundaries of what is a debate. I mean, you can't go into the Conservative Party and then call for a redistribution of wealth because they'll be like, well, that's not very conservative, is it? You can't go into your party, which is supposedly a left-wing socialist party, and start arguing for privatisation. Of course, there is a barrier in which the debate is being held. Another journalist, the editor of 5 Pillars, quote tweeted that video and said this: Muslims are rightfully concluding that your party is not for us because of the toxic Islamophobic atmosphere created by fringe leftists. The Muslim Vote also put out a statement which I thought was quite interesting. Adnan Hussein's win showed that politics can be won differently, that a grassroots campaign could win against the odds. The left could learn much from his win and the experience of other independents. Right, so look, I don't know much about 5 Pillars and those journalists, right? I think they're a pro-Muslim news organisation. But these statements that are coming out are really alarming. Now, first of all, I've not seen any evidence of widespread Islamophobia within your party. I've seen a high amount of Muslim participation. Almost every video you see at these events, there's a lot of Muslims there. So again, I haven't seen anything that suggests Muslims are unwelcome. Now, if it's socially conservative views, I've got news for you, right? You're allowed to be criticised for that. As I said, it's not a protected characteristic. And that video basically says, be tolerant of my intolerant views. Look, let's remember for a second. Socially conservative views are just about oppressing someone else. I don't find them legitimate, and that's my personal view. That's my freedom of speech to say so. If you oppose gay marriage, you are oppressing gay people. You're saying to gay people, you cannot have the same rights as a straight couple. You are taking their freedom away. Telling trans people to go to a third space is dehumanizing. I don't see how it's any different to say to black people you should go to a third space. Now, there's a missing thread from all of this. Zara Sultana. Zara Sultana has been attacked multiple times, right? Zara is a socially progressive Muslim. She is a Muslim, right? And the way it looks, I think, and she said it, and I'll tell you what, I think she's right. I think she's facing sexism. The people who you've seen on screen, the tweets I've read, they've pretty much blamed everything on Zara Sultana. The blame is all around, right? Everyone is to blame, yet they targeted her. So what is this? I mean, a Muslim woman cannot speak up on her own views? Is there not, a diversity of thought among the Muslim community? Or do you have to be socially conservative? Like, these particular people, I don't know what the average view of from Muslims or Muslim men. There hasn't been polling done for like 10 years. I don't know. I'm not going to generalize the Muslim community. But those who have been prominent, those who are speaking out, Muslim conservative men are trying to say that actually our views are the majority. You need to basically be socially conservative to get the Muslim vote. And yet they're also sidelining Zara Sultana, who was a Muslim, who was a woman, and who was progressive. Look, maybe I'll be criticised for this, but I think this is an example of sectarian politics. Right? Many of us cheered when Adnan won at the general election. The idea that an independent pro-Gaza MP unseat a Labour MP was incredible. We loved it. But since then, he has come out with views that are antithetical to the left, and he's rightfully being criticised. Look, Gaza is one of the greatest issues of our time for sure, but it doesn't mean that everything else doesn't matter. And it feels like two prominent Muslim men, whether they're MPs or lawyers who are speaking up against this, all right? We don't even know that they represent the majority of Muslim men, right? But it sounds like they just want a Gaza party. And some of them are saying we were misled. I mean, sorry, you were working with Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn, who was a socialist, who was socially progressive, and you thought, what, it was just going to be a Gaza party? I mean, if I can remember correctly, Jeremy Corbyn was either the first MP or at least first party leader to say that trans women are women and trans men are men. He's been extremely socially progressive. He's made statements at your party events saying that we stand with trans people. And you thought, oh, what, we're going to build a party that's basically going to be a broad church on social issues, and let's be honest, a broad church on economic issues, but we're just going to agree on one thing, which is Gaza. You absolutely thought wrong, and you were not misled. Again, the party, Jeremy and many other people have said, this is a socialist party. You can campaign with other people that you disagree with on Gaza, right? I'm very glad we have more pro-Gaza MPs than we did before the election. But you don't need to join a political party if you only agree on one thing. I reject the politics of purism. I don't think you need to agree on 10 out of 10 things to be in the same party. It never works. It's ridiculous, right? But you've got to agree on some things. You've got to agree on the foundations, the values. So if you agree on one thing, then it's not going to work. Look, we're nearing conference. It's extremely close. Now, we're going to be there, by the way, and we're going to see what happens. And look, if a Democratic Party arises from this, then none of these public fights really matter.